Hello and welcome to another movie review from MBE. Tonight, whenever it may be, we are speaking about 2020's You Should Have Left, John.
Yes.
Now, this was directed by David Koop. I think that's how you say it.
David Koop.
And it stars Kevin Bacon, Amanda Seyfried, and Avery 2 Essex. It's actually quite a very small cast.
Yes.
A few Welsh locals in there as well. Yes. But listen, I'm going to hand it over to you now, John, so we can go through this experience, give our thoughts, etc., like you do with a review. So let's just get on with it.
Yes, let's do, Stephen. I think you may, whilst I'm speaking, may want to set the actual review to public. I feel, in my heart of hearts, it could be private. So we'll crack on, Stephen.
Yes.
I digress. Look, we both found out about this movie pretty late. I want to say it was probably about 3-4 weeks ago, a month, maybe slightly longer, 5 weeks ago. The trailer dropped. Wasn't even remotely aware of this movie's existence. I then discovered that it may have not been as far back as that. In actual fact, it may have only been a couple of weeks ago.
I think it was a couple of weeks ago.
One of the shows a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And also, you read into it somewhat. I informed you, look, there's this cool little trailer. Maybe we should talk about this.
Yeah.
And it may have been vice versa. And you told me that it was David Koip and Kevin Bacon once again teaming up, collaborating for the first time, I believe, since they both worked on The Stud of Eccles. And look, I know that you loved that movie. I certainly enjoyed it. It's one of my favourite horror movies from the early 2000s-ish. I can't recall the exact year. And to see these two guys working together once again, it was very, very exciting indeed, the prospect. And then it was further sort of notched up a couple of levels when we were informed that it was going straight to VOD and it was coming out very, very soon indeed. Of course, we had to do a Groundhog Day review again, Stephen, because the audio went a little bit crap. Is it live? That's great.
We were public all along.
Oh, we were public. There you go. I thought I'd made it private. You know, we set up using previous sort of templates, previous live shows, and sometimes it's set to private, strangely, but not this time. It's public. But Stephen, obviously, we did finally get around to watching this movie.
Yeah.
And what a nice little intro to start with from Koip and Bacon, the Bacon Man. It's an Inception-esque dream sequence to kick things off. It's the little daughter who's having a dream.
It's very Lemmy-esque.
It's very Lemmy-esque.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Lemmy is, that's Brian Lemond from Glasgow, Scotland.
Yeah.
He's in the United Kingdom. He's a UK known figure, great comedian. And he did a similar sort of sketch. It was absolutely hilarious. He couldn't wake up.
Yeah.
Bad things were happening to him.
Yeah.
Turns out it's his daughter then. Nope, it's Kevin Bacon who wakes up. I think she wakes up, then she wakes up again, then it's him that wakes up. So it's a very sort of discombobulated, strange start.
Yeah.
But it sets the tone for this movie tremendously because it's a very discombobulated, strange movie, Stephen. What did you make about this movie popping out of nowhere? The first trailer, the concept of Cope and obviously Bacon working together again for the first time since Stud of Eccles, and that intro. Fling it right under the bus.
No. The other bit about that intro, John, is we're introduced to that chap. I was trying to remember his name and I can't remember it. The chap that they all speak about in the village. Well, he actually has a conversation with the daughter.
Stetler?
Stetler or something like that. Yeah, Stetson. I can't remember, but
Samsonite.
Swanson Slappy. It's a great introduction, John, and it kind of gives you a feel for where this film's going to go. You know, later on in the film, it actually does mirror it a little bit. Some of the visuals as well. Early on, you get that sort of turning camera thing when she's in her bed.
Yeah.
And you sense something's not right. You know, something's not quite sitting well here. But as you said, it turns out to be a dream within a nightmare within a nightmare. We also established
another nightmare.
The Kevin Bacon character, Theo, has these nightmares very often. You can tell just with the way he accepts them. You know, he's not really rattled by them. No. He is for maybe the first few seconds of waking up, but this seems to be an effect that's been with him, obviously, since, spoiler alert, since his first wife died. I think she took an overdose or something.
Yeah, she
like
was
that,
hitting the wine, Stephen, and I think that maybe some painkillers or something. Yeah, she slipped into the bathtub.
Yeah, and it's affected him. You know, he's a tortured soul. Yeah, and that's Absolutely. A clue. That's a clue to where we're going with this film as well.
Absolutely, Stephen. He's a deeply, deeply troubled individual, and you're right. The nightmare sequence at the start. Then obviously he's got sort of self-therapy, meditative stuff going on. I think his wife's in the pool. And she comes out. He's lying, listening to this meditation sort of thing. And that again just showing you this guy has issues.
Yeah.
He's dealing with it on his own. He's probably a centred, I don't know, proud chap who doesn't want to go and see a psychiatrist because That's another thing set up early in this movie as well. He's a sort of infamous figure, a famous banker, made a ridiculous amount of wealth, and he's almost been accused of killing his wife, but we don't know, the audience, whether he has indeed killed his wife or not at this point. And he's got the therapy thing going on, so that's something that just continues throughout the whole movie. It's really about feel, in a sense.
Yeah.
This man's almost in purgatory, and that theme continues on with a vengeance as we actually go to this strange little house in Wales.
Yeah.
And it's just, it follows this guy's mental health and clinging on to his family in the present, and also not being able to leave the life he had in the past, and just guilt and whatnot. It deals with some nice themes, it deals with some nice symbolism, which I like in a movie. You know me, Stephen.
Yeah.
I like to look for symbolism when it's not even there. I see things that directors didn't even see in their vision for a movie. But look, he also rocks up. You see the sort of, I don't know, he's a kind of compulsive guy with trust issues. He doesn't seem to trust his wife. She's much younger than him, probably about 20, 30 years younger than him. I think he rocks up to the set. She's an actress, and she's filming a slightly explicit scene, and he's having to wait. This guy's holding
It's
him
a
up.
bit awkward, yeah.
Yeah, it's awkward. And again, it's just fleshing out these characters. They're distinctly different characters. She has sort of ambitious, younger mindset for life. She's laughing at crap jokes on her phone, never off her phone. He's a more older, grounded guy. And they're clashing. And again, that conflict carries throughout the movie. It's something that's quite important for the rest of the movie. So it's just exquisitely setting up these characters and the story going forward. I really enjoyed the first hour of this movie, Stephen.
I was going to say that, John.
We'll get into that later, I'm sure. But the first half an hour in particular, within the first hour, it just flew by.
Yeah.
I've said that later on in my actual guideline. The way it flies by is incredible. I was watching it and I looked and it's 28 minutes past already. I'm like, that's promising.
Yeah.
That is
some films you can watch the first half hour and you feel like you've watched 2 hours already and you've not. So you're right, John. I think the first 45 minutes for me was probably the more interesting half of the film. I think it's only on for an hour and a half, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really just setting up the characters in it. I know I'm kind of missing the point because it is a so-called horror. I actually don't class this as a horror at all.
No.
But I don't class the Stir Echoes as a horror film either. It's more thriller for me. I think it's just what you get out of it, and you can sort of subgenre it or whatever you want.
Shockingly,
But
they're saying it's a drama. Primarily, I don't see this as a drama.
No.
This is a sort of thriller mystery movie with horror elements tacked on.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of drama in here.
It's got some. There's not any jump scares or anything like that I reacted to anyway.
There's a couple that maybe younger, maybe slightly more frightful people.
Maybe they were just too predictable for me, But
you can sense, Stephen, that's coming. They do the classic trick with the volume going up, and it's like,
I don't really regard it as a drama though. I've got to say that. I think they're wrong there, but it's certainly a thriller. If you want to put it in between drama and horror, it's in that sort of pigeonhole. But the first 45 minutes for me, the setting up of the characters, it's just like good writing. It's just the way these characters are developed and explored at a pace that it's not going to bore you or anything like that, because I didn't feel bored at all in this film at any point.
No.
And you're right, the first 45 minutes for me went in very quickly, John, and I was very interested to see why Kevin Bacon's character Theo was the way he was. I was really interested to see why is he so insecure, why has he got these self-therapy tapes. The daughter as well, to me, appeared a little troubled as well, and I think it was more so her outlook on her sort of father, and what she's heard about him and stuff like that, and there is a scene which we'll probably get into, John, later on, but that explores that. But and then I can't remember Amanda Seyfried's character's name again, Susanna. Yeah. You're right. She's very. She's not floaty. She's very clever. She's a smart lady, but she does have a different outlook on life. I actually forgot she was laughing at those jokes on the phone, and you can see Kevin Bacon's face just wasn't amused, as if grow up,
sort of theologically as well, Steve. She believes in God and heaven and whatnot, and he doesn't.
Well, there's that awkward moment in the car, isn't it, when the daughter asks him, and I can't remember what he says, but it's just a totally wrong thing he says, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something she asks, are you going to die soon because you're older?
Yeah.
Hey Daddy, because you're old, you'll die first, won't you? I'm not that old, but you'll die first though, right?
Yeah.
Not if I can help it. And I'm like, That's a strange reply. Feel.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
That was
You're
in
saying you're going to kill your wife?
part of that.
Again?
I know. That crossed my mind as well. But that part of that scene was actually in the trailer, and I want to actually touch on the trailer as well, John, because I was going to do that and I forgot. But the trailer for me, when we watched that, I kind of worried that they'd shown us too much. They showed us all the best bits and kind of gave a lot away. They did all the best bits that were in the trailer, you know, are probably the best bits in the film, you know, and I don't know why they did that. It's very hard for that genre. I understand they've got to keep it intense to pull people in.
Bring people in.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always said that about horror films, you know, they've got to show you the best bits, or most of the best bits anyway, but I just feel that all of the best bits that were in the trailer were the best bits in the film. So
there was some sort of suspenseful things going on though that weren't in the trailer, just little things with the house and stuff like that, little doorways popping up. I think we did see them measuring the actual room size and the trailers. Wall. Yeah, the wall and the right angles and stuff like that. So there was, Stephen, again, that's just a pitfall of that genre, as you did say. It's very difficult to not give away all the best bits within the horror genre in a trailer, because you're trying to bring in people, show them maybe the best bits, but then the downside to that is they've seen all the scares, and then it just leaves the story. And if the story isn't there and it's lacking in any way, and it isn't a fully rounded experience which allows the scares to just pop up, and then it's not built on scares like The Nun was. That whole movie was built on crap parlour tricks, scares, and it just didn't work for me. The story was non-existent. Thankfully, there is some essence of a story in this movie though, and it all seems to begin when they do go to Wales. It's a sort of countryside retreat, a big mansion in the middle of nowhere, up in the hills. It's called the Hill House, I think, or something like that. I can't recall what it's actually called. But Stephen, early on you spoke about cinematography. I'm pretty sure you said some of the shots, the camera rotating on a little girl at the start.
Yeah.
Really, really impressive sort of drone cinematography when they're winding their way up in that Range Rover, up into this residence in the hillside. Really stunning shots.
That's to show you how remote it is, John.
Yeah, and they managed to capture the beauty of Wales as well, a sort of rolling terrain where there's lots of valleys and troughs and peaks and troughs. That's the word. So I really enjoyed that. And then we get to this house, and it's just right from the get-go, this house is strange as hell. I mean, I've said in my notes here, why are the hallways in this joint so narrow? They were incredibly narrow corridors. Yeah. And it makes no sense whatsoever.
That Polaroid on the wall as well, that would have made me not even unpack my case. It was an absolute terrifying, disturbing photograph. It was an image of a person standing at a doorway, wasn't it? Yeah. And he looked at it and then just stuck it back in the wall. I went, no.
He just didn't give a shit.
There's something not right about this. Exactly, you know, but...
again, that's a man that doesn't believe in ghosts and afterlife, so...
Yeah, well, possibly. That's a good point, John, yeah.
He's not easily spooked. And you see that, Stephen, and one of the very early things that happens in this movie, when he also puts his young girl to bed, and his wife, he has a little interaction with her, he goes downstairs to switch all the lights off, and there's so many light switches.
Yeah.
And none of them seem to control the lights, and it's just odd. It sets the tone of this house very, very well. It's just strange. So many rooms and corridors, and the lights keep going on in different rooms, and he's following it. The time on the sort of alarm clock, it's 10:35 or something at night.
Yeah.
He then comes back up the stairs. His wife's asleep. She's like, "What took you so long?" He's like, "What are you talking about? I was only downstairs switching the lights off." Shows you him getting into bed. It looks at the alarm clock. It's 3:30 or something.
I like that, John.
Time slips going on.
Yeah, there was
subtle
some
little things.
See, that's the kind of thing I like in this kind of movie, is the unexplained. You know, it's not really something that they delved really into, you know, and try to work out or anything. All we knew there was,
sadly,
there was something going on with time, parallels or something like that. I'm not really sure. The other scene that reminded me of an X-Files episode was when the little girl said she was cold and she went to get her jacket. Visually, that was terrifying.
Yeah, because it was all shot from outside.
Yeah.
He's watching the room and he feels uneasy. He's got a sense that something's going to happen. She runs into the room. Again, that's when they're measuring these rooms in the house. Because he gets down to the village at one point, and they make some strange reference. The guy, the strange oddity in the shop, gives him this, I can't even recall what you call it. It's a sort of triangular measuring thing. I can't recall what it's called. Right angles, he says. Yeah. Check the right angles. Or check the angles. And he comes back and he's checking the angles. Finally, he's like, "Yeah, I'll try this." And it's out of I don't know, it's just out. The whole house is out. The walls are strange.
Is that a set square?
A set square, I think that's what it's called, yeah. The measurements are way off. It's like 25 feet inside, it's only 21 feet outside.
Yeah.
It's almost like a TARDIS. There's weird shit going on. And you're right, that sequence was unearthing, just the way it was shot.
Yeah.
Because it was almost one shot. It followed her going round.
That's right, yeah.
Then you can almost watch her going into the house. And then she comes in, and then she goes out the door, and it's taking way too long. I loved all of that stuff, Stephen. The subtle, not so subtle stuff that was going on within the house. That for me was the most entertaining part of this movie.
Yep.
Sadly, you're right, they didn't really explain why it was happening. Well, they tried. They kind of went with the whole devil purgatory crap. But I prefer things when they're rooted in realism, and there's maybe slight psychological...
Some science in it, yeah.
Maybe him going crazy instead of it being out-and-out paranormal. It's almost better like The Shining. But there's a hint of paranormal, but he could just be a psychopath. It's flipped.
Well, I would say that, John, if the daughter wasn't involved, they were very clever involving the daughter in a lot of his experiences to sort of make you realise it's not all in his head. There is something really evil going on, downstairs. And
it's just this guy with the glasses and the hat. He just keeps popping up again and again and again. They never really explain who that guy is. He's Stettler or something, but why was he in the dreams at the start? It wasn't connected to the house. Was it some entity that was just preordained to select him and bring him to this house? Because I think the villager says that at one point. Sometimes the family finds the house, sometimes the house finds them. It's just cop out. Stephen, we're still in the first half of the movie we're speaking about, and this is perhaps for me the best. Just down to the village, as I did say. It's one of the oddest interactions in the whole movie. This is a movie where we have rooms appearing out of thin air and lights going off and strange photographs and shots of naked women in bathtubs down in a basement that doesn't exist. There's crazy shit going on. And this stands out to me as perhaps the most odd interaction in the entire movie. Where he goes down and he speaks to this little Welsh guy in the shop, and it's just, he's odd. He keeps going off and getting different sort of things that he's requesting. I think it's eggs, bread, butter. He keeps going back and forth and getting it. And it immediately makes me think that nothing's right. This village isn't right. The house isn't right. Nothing is right.
I don't know if you've ever been in any villages in Scotland, John. It's very League of Gentlemen.
Stone house.
Yeah. It's very, local shops for local people type thing, If you're not one of them, then you're against them kind of thing, I don't know if you ever get that vibe in some villages, I was laughing at that scene. I think Kevin Bacon's character Theo actually had a little laugh to himself because of the way the guy kept going into the store room to collect one thing at a time and then coming back, and then as if he couldn't remember, maybe 2 or 3 things at once. And he laughed. I actually laughed.
How long was he in that shop as well? Because he got the box full of stuff, and did he go back?
Must have been about 45 minutes or something like that.
Christ, man. Bet he wished that time slipped in that shop. But it's so strange, Stephen. He goes out and interaction with the old woman against the car as well, and it's like, have you met him yet? Have you seen Stettler? And he's like, what the hell's with this Stettler crap? And they never seem to just get back to that again. It's never really until the very end, but it's loosely rounded up. And again, we'll get into the ending. It's my most disappointing aspect of this movie for me. But Stephen, we see the control, jealous freak side, the snooping side of Theo at this point.
I laughed at that as well.
She goes into the bath and he's snooping on her phone, he's snooping on her iPad, he's snooping on her MacBook, and he's shouting things. Do you want some shampoo? Have you got any? So you're washing your hair then? And it's so obvious. And she obviously knows, because she says afterwards, you're not great at hiding things or something like that. And I'm like, oh yes he is, because he's been looking through your stuff and you don't know. But there's a little twist. She has another phone on her possession, which she's doing her dodgy shit with. So that was a nice little slap down to him, because he's a conniving little snooping shit. And you see that, because I like that aspect as well, Stephen. He's the primary protagonist in the movie. Sometimes a director would be forced into making him an out-and-out good guy. And he can't put a foot wrong. But this is a very, as we said earlier on, conflicted, troubled guy. He ain't a good guy.
No.
He has elements. He's human. He's fractured. There's bad sides to his personality, and there's obviously good sides. He's caring for his daughter and whatnot. And I really enjoyed that. What was your thoughts on him snooping? And then that horrendous sequence, truly horrendous sequence when he wakes up, he goes down the stairs and jots in his book. That door appears behind him, he goes down,
John,
and he's stabbing himself in the neck and everything. It was gruesome, man.
There's points in this film that are very clever the way they do it. They use the actors to sort of hide what's behind them. They did it in that room where he writes, where he goes up to I think it's the lamp to put it off, and when his, when he moves away from it, just the way it's angled, it shows you the doors opened, and the lights on. I think that's actually early in the film, but there's elements of that throughout the film. You see it with that shadow when they're, the daughter and him are trying to escape the house as well, which we'll get into, where you don't see the shadow until he moves away. But that whole sequence, John, the snooping was very funny. I felt, I was like, how naive is she? That he's been nice, because I think they were bickering before that. When they weren't talking, there was a bit of a sort of silent treatment thing going on.
Yeah, it was because she also told the daughter what happened, why some people didn't like her dad, and this whole conspiracy thing over whether he killed his wife or not. She revealed what happened. His previous wife died and whatnot, and then they were arguing over it. He wasn't, and I think there was a great line as well where he says to her, just go back on your phone or something like that. And if you again, shows you the disconnect in age between these two people. He's a guy that's been brought up in a life without phones and technology to an extent. She's always been around it. Perhaps, I don't know how old Amanda Seyfried's character is. And there's just that disconnect. It's always palpable throughout the whole movie. So I
almost felt like Theo was looking for an excuse to have this sort of confrontation though, and that was the perfect excuse, because in reality, and he must understand that his daughter's asking questions, and the mother's got to be honest with the daughter, and put her mind to ease, because there's obviously been trouble in her, these rumours about her dad, and I thought it was a good scene, but it did cause that tension between them for, I think it was through dinner and stuff like that. She puts her hand out, the daughter puts her hand on, I can't remember, what is it she called him again?
Daddy or something like that.
I can't remember.
I can't recall.
I can't remember. They had names for each other anyway.
It was because he went down to the village as well, Stephen, to get the groceries, or the messages as we call them here in Scotland. There's a little Scottish term for you. Yeah. And she wasn't happy. There wasn't some finer food there. He's like, we're in a Welsh rural town. What the hell are you expecting? Yeah. So that's where it all stemmed from. Incidentally, hi to No One Talks Movies. Incidentally, I missed the comment in the chat. All right. Hey. Sorry about that. Hopefully I'm not gone now.
Yeah. And then onto that sequence, John, you said, he wakes up and he goes down the stair. He goes down to this basement, actually, doesn't he? And he sees his daughter lying.
Oh, it's horrendous.
It is. It's probably the most shocking scene of the film, actually.
Yes.
It looks like she's drowned because there's water coming out her mouth. And he's just, distraught, and something in him tells him it's a dream. It's a nightmare he's having, but it just doesn't go away. He slashes his wrist, doesn't he, at first?
Slapping himself, slashes his wrist.
Still not waking up. And that's when I started to think, is this us hitting the peak of the film already? I think it was probably about 50 minutes in, 55 minutes in at that point. I thought, we've still got another half hour to go. This is going to be very interesting. And then he stabs himself in the neck, doesn't he?
It's horrendous.
And he still won't wake up. I've never seen that in a film before. Normally, when they have a nightmare, it's right away, or they do that thing they did at the beginning where they wake up and then there's another sort of little scenario where they're still in the nightmare and then they wake up. But this just went on and on.
That may have been a play. That may have been a play on the start where he's having so many dreams. He's almost became immune. There's another term, but he's became immune to these dreams, and he just keeps waking up in other nightmare situations. Whereas when he goes to this house, this is almost like the epicentre of everything that's wrong in his life coming to the surface, and he can't wake up. He's stuck in the dream, and he's not got that relief. Stephen, I loved the sort of symbolism in this scene as well, that dream sequence. I've says it in the notes. It's a sort of double entendre about him burying his past and for a shiny new life. He's trying to escape the whole thing with his wife and living a new life with his new younger wife and his daughter. And it's almost like a house on top of a house. I think the villager says it as well. There's been many houses of different forms. What was there before that house? Another house.
A tower.
And a tower.
Yeah.
Almost like building houses upon houses. Obviously, they're meaning it's a sort of strange area anyway. There's always been something there. It's devilish. Yeah. It's caught or creating this. It's an area of evil. But double entendre, he is moving on. He's building upon dodgy foundations, building upon a dodgy life. He just can't get over his self-therapy. He's not sleeping right, and he's trying to move on, and he can't. He's getting dragged down. I love that symbolism. That's something that continues throughout the movie. Stephen, you're right. This was probably around about the 45-50 minute mark, because it's round about this mark where it turns really, really weird. I've said a weird film turns even weirder around the halfway mark. Theo and Susanna split up. It gets too much. He discovers she has a second phone. She's cheating on him.
Yeah.
And that's it. It just flips.
This is when they're ready to leave the house as well.
Yeah.
They're ready to go, on their way.
Yeah, because I think they try to phone up the little Welsh guy down in the town, and he says, no, there's no taxis here. You're essentially stuck. You only leave if they allow you to leave it. Maybe later on. But
I think that's when he's just with his daughter.
Yeah, something happens prior to it, though. I think they try to leave. And you're right, he has a bust up with her. And this is something that really wound me up no end. I hate it in horror movies when there's little potholes and things that no normal, sane-minded human being would do. Sending his wife away with the car, and him staying with his daughter in a house he knows is wrong. There's weird stuff going on. Why the hell would you send away your only means of escape, quick escape, and stay in that house one more night? No, it makes no sense. It's sort of movie logic. Yeah, it works for a movie.
It's to maintain the story. Yeah.
It would be crap if they just left and that was the end. I know. But
it's funny that, John, because this film in its genre, the first 45 minutes are nothing to do with this genre. It's a build-up. It's just an interesting sort of build-up to that point, And part of you just wants to continue in that theme, But
because almost their lives are more horror than the actual things going on in the house.
It's just something more interesting about
guy
that.
Doesn't trust. Yeah, the wife, and then the whole concept of the wife being killed. Did he do it? Sometimes you just want to stay in the characters and follow its natural progression. Yeah, without all this crap going on. It'd have been a better drama. Make another marriage story type movie. David Cope and Kevin Bacon. Do that, man. Do that next. That's your next production. Stephen, obviously we spoke briefly about the little girl running into the house to get her jacket. But the sequence that transpires after that is batshit crazy as well. It's almost like a maze-like thing, hide and seek. He's going through multiple doors, down corridors, upstairs, downstairs, going back into the living room and whatnot. Again, that says it's almost like, again, symbolic of this man. Just he's in the turmoil, what's going on in his head. He's compartmentalising different sections of his life. And he's running about and he's not wanting to go into this door and he's going into this door. He's trying to get to his daughter, but he's keeping all the bad shit in his previous life away. Yeah. I really liked it. Again, I love the symbolism in this movie. I love movies which have sort of undercurrents of different things going on and symbolic stuff and whatnot. Your camera's completely gone, Stephen. I will fling a graphic up. If you maybe want to tell us what your thoughts were about that hide and seek sequence, I will quickly try and fling the graphic up. It's not coming up for whatever reason, so we may have to go to the main thing. There we go. No, it's not coming up, Stephen. We're absolutely screwed. So I'll just go off shot right now. No, there you go. We'll put thanks for watching up. That'll do. That will do. But we're not done, guys.
Yeah, we're not done.
We ain't done yet. Right, there we go. We're back, Stephen. So what was your thoughts on the hide and seek sequence, Stephen, where the little girl is trying to hide from this strange, bespectacled chap, and he's furiously trying to find her? Was that something you enjoyed?
Oh, really? No. It was nah. Visually, it was good.
Graphic not coming up.
Visually, it was good, John. It was interesting, but it was a little predictable. You still had a big chunk of the film to go, and this all seemed to kick off once Susanna was away as well. It was just him and the daughter at this point, and at some point they had to meet up again. It was almost like a sort of labyrinth, of these doors and what was behind them. Some of them didn't open, some of them did, and
the house, when there's numerous doors. Do you want to get behind this one? Different scares going on and whatnot. That strange little spider thing in it, chapter 2. Yeah, it was like that. Yeah. I love things like that, Stephen. It ups the stakes for fears or scares and whatnot. I was never scared at any point in this movie. I have to admit that right now. But
was this the bit that the woman came out of the bath and she was like spewing water all over him? Was that bit? Yeah. Yeah. See, that didn't even scare me.
No, again, I'm immune to horrors now. I'm still searching for a horror which will scare me like not Friday the 13th. Nightmare on Elm Street. And maybe the Tim Curry from back in the day. That's what I'm still hunting, but I'm yet to find one.
It just might be the type of person I'm, John, but I'm more disturbed about the sort of time slides and the jacket thing going on. That kind of unnerves me more than seeing someone jump out of a bath, and be all Linda Blair out The Exorcist.
And him getting down the stairs on his lonesome to switch lights off. It's like, bring someone down with you. Get a dog, Theo. Please, get a dog. Please. They never leave your side if you get a dog like mine. But Stephen, obviously this takes us into the end of the movie, pretty much. The beginning of the end.
Try to escape,
He's trying to leave the house. That moment you spoke about, where the little daughter looks back and she sees a shape in the house looking out. No one's in that house. I'm like, right away, that's Kevin Bacon. I can see the slender frame.
Yeah.
I can see his hair.
Yep.
He's stuck in this house. That again, Stephen, this is why I don't like the ending of this movie. I'll get into it right now because we're talking about the end anyway. We'll just blend this all into one homogenous sort of talk about the finale. It's so on the nose. It's so telegraphed from the very, very beginning that he's a troubled guy. They hit it maybe a couple of scenes later that something's going on with his old wife. She died. And right away, it was not even remotely like Stir of Echoes or What Lies Beneath, which this was compared to at one point by someone. It's so on the nose, it's so telegraphed. There's no real suspense around the character because I knew he'd done it.
Yeah.
I knew he was so troubled that he had to have killed his wife or he was involved in some way.
Yeah.
He didn't technically kill her, but I knew he was involved.
He's guilt-ridden, you know.
Yeah, he's guilt-ridden.
He's like that throughout the movie.
But in Stir of Echoes, it's a real reveal that this poor girl was killed by men and brutally tortured. And then in What Lies Beneath, it's a real shock when Harrison Ford's character, who's a sort of loving husband trying to help his wife out, when he turns and it's revealed he's this psychotic killer that murdered a woman and flung her into a lake.
Yeah.
It shakes you to your core when you're watching it the first time. This was never like that. But again, that shot of him standing in the house, I'm like, that's him. There's something going on with this house.
Yeah.
He's stuck there. It's like purgatory. There's weird shit going on. It's connected to his wife. And that's when it started getting downhill for me, this movie.
Yeah.
Round about the hour and 10 minute mark, it just felt to shit. And it's so disappointing. They set the whole movie up beautifully. The first hour or so, the characters, the concept of the house, trouble in relationships, trouble within this man's mind. And then the final 20 minutes or so, they just rushed it. They rushed it too much.
It felt rushed to me as well, John. And you have that confrontation between, what was his name again? Him with the stick?
Yeah, Stetler or something.
Yeah, Stetler. I don't know why I can't remember that. I just can't absorb that name for some reason. But see when he's hitting him with the stick as well, that was another bit I was laughing at because it turns to him. You know, I kind of felt that was going to happen though. You know, and that's the problem with the second half of this film. It's so predictable, and the last 20 minutes for me, 30 minutes, is very rushed. It's as if they just want to get to the point. Classic Blumhouse, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, an hour and a half film.
Maybe ran out of budget.
Possibly, you know, maybe that's when lockdown began and they couldn't finish the film. You know,
let's just get it done.
Yeah, there's a big chunk missing, but no, there's something. You know when they were leaving the house, him and the daughter as well in the middle of the night, and they end up back at the house. I saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah.
I was like, "There's no way they're going to walk for 4 miles in the pitch dark in the countryside, and that's all you're going to see." You know, something's going to happen. The only thing that can happen is they return to that house. I did like the girl's reaction too, but we were going downhill the whole way.
Yeah.
And that's when the penny drops with him. I'm never going to be able to leave this house, you know, which means you're not going to be able to leave this house because I can't leave you, you know.
And they can't survive outside in the freezing
and
cold.
And that confrontation with Stetler, is that what you call him? Stetler?
Stetler,
I remembered. He actually says that, you know, you've got to let go. That's the only way you're going to be able to free the ones you love. Or I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah, but I think he says something like, let's save her, she's innocent.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not doing anything. The only person keeping her here is you.
Yeah.
And that's when you know he's in a predicament. He has to finally give up the life that he loves and just become one with the life.
It was almost like the dad in Parasite, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's exactly it, Stephen. It was like a sort of sacrificial lamb. He had to sacrifice. Oh, it was almost like Tony Stark, a crapper version of Tony Stark in Endgame. He has to give up his wife, his daughter, this new life that he loves, to sort of balance it off, the equilibrium, if you like.
Yeah.
That was sad, because I didn't like the character. He was troubled. He was a bit of an arsehole at times. A tragic figure, but I still felt for the man nonetheless. He had to give his daughter up. And again, there's some great moments, which I'll get into in a moment, but I can't not speak about when they're out at night with the daughter. He's out at night with the daughter, I should say. And they get spooked by the sounds, and I'm like, right away, that's a fox, man. We stay out in the suburbs.
I saw one the other day.
Yeah, it's like countryside. I'm out walking my dog at like 12:30 at night. I hear these foxes all the time. I'm right away, that's a fox. I think he says it's a deer or something. I'm like, what are you talking about, Bacon?
I think he was trying to think of something that was pretty harmless to sort of really just calm his daughter down. I think it was, you know, he's thinking something. I think if he said a fox, that would have freaked her out more. So I think he was just thinking of something bit more tamer.
And then Stephen, again, symbolism. The man is trying to get up the stairs in this house.
Yeah.
Keeps getting dragged down. He's trying to get to his daughter. And it's just symbolic. He's getting dragged back down to this sort of old life. He just cannot escape his turmoil, the guilt. You're right, he's a guilt-ridden guy. He's troubled. Just again, symbolism. That's the one thing I did enjoy about the end. It was just steeped in symbolism.
Yeah.
And I love my symbolism, you know.
Yeah.
But everything else was pretty poor and rushed for the most part, Stephen. The ending, again, it was just lacklustre.
Yeah.
I did like the sort of Interstellar vibe, though. Different angles. And him from different timelines coming in and trying to alter things. He's writing in the book, Leave Now.
Yeah, it's him that's wrote in the book, yeah.
Yeah, that was good. It was sort of McConaughey-esque. He's knocking the books out for his daughter in the room. Not as good, though. Not as good, sadly. But it was cool, nonetheless. It was a cool concept. Many people says Interstellar was a bit of a mind-F. It was too ambiguous and people couldn't understand what was going on. Well, watch this and you'll be even more cluster-effed in the head.
That, yeah.
Stephen, what did you make about the utilisation of scares in this movie, though? That's the next thing I've said. We spoke about this briefly. Do you view it as an out-and-out horror? I certainly don't.
No.
We mentioned that before. It's more thriller, mystery, with a little bit of horror flung in for good measure, just to keep the heart rate up a bit for the more frightful audience members, if you like.
Yeah.
But it's the utilisation of scares. It was okay.
No,
I liked the more
mediocre,
subtle moments with the lights and whatnot, and the door appearing, and he's like, "Oh shit, I have to go down here." There was some jump scares where the noise would jump up or the girl would scream, and I'm not a fan of that. I says it before when we spoke about Nun. Not for me, that sort of crap. It's too on the nose. It's cheap parlour tricks. It's cheap, period. Stephen, though, the best performance in this movie. I mean, I've says about the twist. Did it shock you? I think we're both in agreement. It didn't shock us.
No, I saw it coming a mile away, John.
Yeah.
It was only when he would admit it, to his family. But no, it didn't surprise me at all.
No, neither did I, Stephen, and that is it didn't with me either. I should say, not neither did I. That makes no sense.
Performances, John.
Kevin one man show.
But yeah, it's a very small cast.
It's been harsh on Seyfried.
She was very good, but she was missing for a chunk of the action. That in the second half. But she was good. But how many? We're talking about 5 members in the cast here or something like that. Not any more than 10 anyway, and Kevin Bacon's in the film, and he's the main guy, so he carried the film, John. It was about him, it was about his turmoil, it was about his guilt, it was about his tragic past, and his tragic future. Absolutely,
Stephen, a man who had no future, if you like. You're right, he carried the movie. It was a one-man show for me. He almost single-handedly redeems the ending as well. I just love the guy, I love his acting. I've been watching him for years upon years, decades now. He can do everything. He can play paedophiles and make himself strangely likeable. So if you can do that, in comic book villains, fantastic. And First Class, was it?
Yeah.
Absolutely stupendous. Thunderbird. And so I love the guy, and he was absolutely stupendous in this movie again. The man's hitting his 60s now, I want to say. He's not aged that badly. He has aged, but he's not aged horrendously. He's still in magnificent shape.
You're talking 20 years since Stir of Echoes, and I don't think he looks much older, to be honest with you.
And he just has to put the makeup on like he did with Jimmy Fallon and that sort of strange Beach Boys thing and Tom Petty thing, and he's back being a sort of 50-year-old again. So look, I digress, Stephen. Technical stuff, we'll probably jump into that briefly. Again, we kind of spoke about it, but set design was really intelligent for a movie like this. It's Blumhouse. They know how to do low-budget horror movies set in sort of confined spaces. It keeps the budget down. Horror movies do work when they're in confined spaces as well.
What I did like about this, it's something different for your classic horror films where they use an old house. They're actually using a very modern house.
Yeah.
Obviously, the explanation of it was built on old grounds, and those old grounds were built on a tower, etc. But I thought that was a clever trick. I thought, make these characters feel comfortable in this house for the... I don't know how many hours it was, because it was, I think the next day they started thinking, no, we don't like this. I also liked the fact that that both characters, Susanna and what's his name, Theo, assumed each other had booked it when neither of them booked this place. So that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, it was drawn to them essentially. Yeah, I mean, I liked the technical stuff. I liked the score was non-existent, but I did enjoy the technical side of things. As I said, cinematography was pretty well done at times. Cool little camera tricks to heighten the sense of uneasiness and scares and whatnot. Par for the course, though, for a Blumhouse horror movie, really. Final thoughts on the movie, Stephen. Was it the correct decision to send it straight to VOD? I have asked. I think it was.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie would have made anywhere near enough money at the box office. Certainly not with this whole coronavirus crap. It wouldn't have had enough eyeballs. There's too much big blockbuster movies, event movies like Tenet, still to come out this year. It would have been swallowed in the mass.
I think it was ideal, John. It was ideal for VOD, which we watched it on Amazon.
Amazon, yes. Right.
I try to imagine
right.
what this would be like in the
Damn yeah.
theatre. I've seen a few horror films or thrillers. I watched The Sixth Sense in the cinema, and it was a great experience. Stir of Echoes as well, great experience. But there was something just lacklustre about this film and its finale, which made me think I'm kind of glad I didn't go to see this in the cinema, because I don't think, as visual as it was, I don't think it was suited for sort of cinematic visuals, if you like. I don't know if that makes sense, but there wasn't enough there to sort of justify it saying, no, you need to see this in the theatres. I don't think I missed anything watching this on VOD.
I'm trying to get budget information. There isn't any budget information. It was probably below $10 million, but even then it would have struggled, Stephen, in the current climate. It was absolutely the correct decision. The director agreed with it. He said it himself, correct decision to go to VOD. You're right, Stephen. Ultimately, my final thoughts, it was a movie of two thirds. It was 2/3 decent, and the final half just let it down for me because it was rushed.
Final third.
The final third, sorry, let it down for me because it was rushed, and it was just a crap explanation for what was going on. It was just felt like so cliched, essentially.
It felt
and I don't
rushed,
like saying that. It's a cliche itself, saying cliched. And you tend to find that when movies end badly, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth, the palate, if you like. Whereas if it's crap for maybe a half and then it gets better, the second half, the final third, and it ends with a bang, perhaps like Rogue One, where you see Darth Vader at the end, you go out thinking, wow, that was absolutely incredible. You're more inclined to forget the crap stuff that came before. This is the opposite of that. It was good for a large part of the movie, then it went a bit crap, and it seems to amplify the feelings of disappointment all the more. But look, I'm done, man. I'm done speaking about it.
I'm finished.
We don't rate the movies, as you probably gather if you've watched this before. We just speak about them. And then we give our thoughts: disappointment, happiness, exhilaration, any emotion within the human lexicon of emotions. But look, guys, I'm done. What is do you have any thoughts, I should say, on this movie? Have you seen it yet? Have you rented it? If you have, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are. Did you think it was good, crap? What was your thoughts on the ending? Did it disappoint you? Did it excite you? What was your thoughts on Kevin Bacon, the main man himself, his performance? If you've got anything to say about this film, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see me and Stephen talking about more movies, reviews, news, everything in between. If you do, you'll see us again on Monday for MBE Movie News.